Bernard-Marie Chiquet. I have two first names, so if you want to choose only one, just do it. Bernard or Mary, depends on the country. In Canada, they call me Mary. Why not? Yeah, I have an experience of over 25 years as an entrepreneur and a leader in large organizations. And during all these years, I found that organizations were complicated, very complicated, in my opinion, my perspective. A lot of waste, waste of energy, a lot of human waste. In 2005, I came to realize that the management hierarchy was very often not appropriate. It became inappropriate. So I decided to get out this system in order to find new solutions. And the question I had at that point was how to have an organizational structure which is simple, clear, explicit, with no political games, that can adapt as fast as change, and that could allow humans to unlock their potential. That was a bar, a high bar. So I did a lot of research. You spoke about holacracy, so I was an expert in holacracy some years ago. And I discovered on my journey, I discovered holacracy at the very beginning, when holacracy 1 was just beginning spreading out holacracy worldwide. So it was 4 or 5 years ago. And I will take this opportunity for this talk to just give you a taste or some glimpse about holacracy. I'm not going to answer all your questions. I think it's not possible in such a small time. But hopefully leave you with new questions. So let's dive in. The question I asked myself for the last 30 years, and I ask everybody on clients or conference or whatever, is the following. And I would like you to reflect about that. What are, in your opinion, the painful challenges that are endemic, chronic, repeating again and again, like patterns within organizations? Any idea? Just if there is one word that pops in your head, just share. What are the endemic challenges? Politics, yeah. What else? Lip service. Fear, yeah, fear. Politics, right. Sorry? Speed.
Not actually sharing your authentic opinions about things.
Yeah. So I ask this question again and again. And here in the next slide, you will see the result I usually get when I ask this question, if it works. Yeah. What is fascinating to me that the answers are always the same, and you will fear and politics, you will see that on the screen. Of course, this is not an exhaustive list of this endemic challenge, but what strikes me is that wherever I go, a small or big or medium organizations, in the public sector, in the industry sector, manufacturing sector, whatever sector, the answers when I ask these questions are always the same. And they are always the same for the last 30 years. And maybe more, but I'm not as old as that. So it's just fascinating. How can we live with that? Think about the economic cost of that. Think about the human cost. Wow. So I think, and this is a premise, holacracy and my premise too, I think these are natural consequences on the way we organize. These are not wrongs. These are just, let's say another way. Our organizations are perfectly designed in order to produce that. I'm sure it's not the intent, of course. So we are not going to fix that by just patching a new cool process on the top of the organization right now. That's for sure. We have to look at the deeper fundamental structure. We have to go to the motherboard of the structure. And it's what all holacracy is about. and of course, one of the alternatives to that. So, what we are used to, and this was very well presented by previous speaker, we are used to that. We are used to management hierarchy. We are used to organize around the people, right? I have founded 5 companies in my life. The 5th one is with holacracy, but the 4 ones, I don't remember having thought, okay, for this company, am I going to use management hierarchy or what else? No. This model is so prevalent that it was the default option, right? So I did like everybody. I just designed a management hierarchy, and we need that, of course. Just why not? Why do we need that? We need that for some kind of alignment, some kind of control, right? Some kind of accountability, just to bring together people in order to manifest some kind of purpose of the organization, right? Now we have to look at that as a concept. So let's us imagine that there is other alternatives to this way we organize. So let's take a word, and I propose to you to get this word. Let's call that a social technology. Let's call this way we organize, the way we organize, a social technology. Even if there is only one prevalent model right now, let's call that a social technology. What we are looking with holacracy is a new social technology. It's a new way of structuring the work in order to bring people together, in order to manifest purpose of the organization. And with this model, of course, we don't get all what we want. This was the first question. And sometimes it happens that it happens things like that, and I will let you some time to take in that diagram. So we can find some politics, can find some fears, a lack of communication, non-ending meetings, lack of making decision process, and so on and so on. So just to I think we have to look at alternatives. That was what I decided to do some years ago. And holacracy is just one of the many alternatives already on the world, and there will be many more in the few years. So let's look at holacracy as a social technology. Why having this social technology? Just to get what I said at the beginning, which was my search on my journey, an explicit and clear and simple organizational structure. That obsolete organizational politics. Don't need to use my relationship with others in order to do my job. Wow. Personally, it was horrible in my experience. That can adapt as fast as change. That is able to harness the full capacity of the human working into the organization, and that supports truly a purpose-driven organization, which is a kind of new thing, something new, as nowadays we speak about profit organization, for-profit or non-profit. Wow. I think we have to move forward that to something like purpose-driven. So just to enter, just to give you a glimpse, and maybe the in a very short sentences to make you understand what is holacracy about. Let's go and visit a city like Paris. And let's take example not on the organization side, but let's look at a town like Paris or other towns. I've read an article that said that within Paris there is between 2.5 days and 3 days work of food, which means that if we stop transportation, bringing food into Paris, then we will begin to starve after 3 days, right? Which is fascinating. Very efficient system. There is no ruler, no bosses. I don't know anybody in Paris in charge of, accountable for, fooding everybody in Paris. And it works with a stock of only 3 days. Isn't it fascinating? How does it work? It works with the system, with rules, rules of law. It works with property right? And when you buy some food, you know that your neighbor is not going to steal your food in your fridge, because there is property right and there is a justice system. So within rules, without rulers, without bosses in a city, with rules and property of law, we have a kind of emergent order that allow efficiency, like 3 days of food in Paris. Holacracy is just based on that. No more rulers, no more bosses. All is grounded into a set of rules called a constitution for organizations. So the first move, when we help organizations and CEOs to adapt holacracy, is tell them to just sign the constitution, to leave their power, to vest in power, they give away their power to a constitution. Like a king going to a new form of government, constitutional based. That's the move. And one fun part of my job is that when I help organization adopting and deploying holacracy with the organization, it's just to remember the CEO as no more authority in order to define the authorities. The power now vests into a constitution, which is the first move. There is no more bosses. The boss is now the constitution. And the constitution has got inside a lot of things. I will explain you the key block of that. And the authority to define authorities is just embedded, backed in the constitution. Of course, the constitution is not going to tell you what is your requisite organization, right? But it's going to give you a meta framework in order to define what is the best suited organization for your company. So there is this first constitutional power block, which is a major shift, just to get you understand, and I hope I get it, understand what is holacracy about. And then a second is a purpose, which is purpose-driven organization. And then we have two main blocks. Maybe you have read a lot of some articles about Zappos, as Zappos is deploying holacracy right now. And some journalists are speaking about this deployment as flatten the organization, which is not true. Well, it's true and not true. It's not a question of flattening the organization, it's more structure. With holacracy, there is more structure, but this more structure has nothing to do with the structure we are used to. Nothing to do with organizing around the people, sorry. And so there is more structure, which is the third block. And at the same time, there is more structure, which is a kind of paradox. There is more life, there is more chaos. We have both at the same time. It's kind of polarities. So understand holacracy, constitution, purpose-driven, and then much more structure. I will give you a glimpse about that, and much more chaos, both at the same time. So let's dive in with the organizational structure. Some word about the purpose. What do we call purpose within holacracy? The purpose is the deepest creative, and I love what you said previously about the potential. The purpose within holacracy is just the deepest creative potential that this organization, this unique organization, is able to bring into the world. What the world is expecting from this organization. In other words, if you stop this organization, what the world will lose. That's the definition of the purpose. So all the resources available for the organization leads to the purpose. So coming from this purpose, and every organization have got a purpose, even if it is not explicit. A reason of being. If there is no reason of being, of course it will not exist. Look, every organization have got a purpose, right? So now the key shift, and remember I told you there is more structure within holacracy. The key shift is that now we are organizing the work, not the people, the work. Look at that diagram. No people, only work. We are just breaking down the purpose into functions, and the functions into roles, and I will dive into roles. So pieces of works that will allow the organization to manifest its purpose on the world. So the basic brick of that is what we call the role. Function will be a circle, and the basic element, component, would be a role. Let me define for you a role and give you an example. This is a role. This is a marketing role. And it's defined without nobody. It's just defined as the work needed to be done for this organization to manifest its purpose. There is three components within these roles. First is the purpose of the role. In that case, purpose of the role is to reveal the natural beauty of holacracy to the world. So the purpose is, why does this role exist or need to exist? What is aim? What is aims to manifest? That's first element. So second one is the domains. Think of domains like property. Remember property right, same thing. So this role is owns the organization's public website. Is the owner. The public website belongs to the organization, right? But it has been delegated in that case to one role, the marketing role. So the marketing role is running, controlling this piece of property of the organization. So that's the second component. And the third component is what we call the accountabilities, which are ongoing activities required by this role, expecting by others that other roles of the organization may expect from that role. So we have got three components. Let me show you in this other diagram. So we have 3 dimensions, 3 components. This is the DNA code, if you will, or the organizational design, with the purpose, the accountabilities, and the domain, which you can look at as a space. And of course, this role, this space, will be assigned to some people with the right skills, willingness to do that. If not, it doesn't work, as you know. So let's imagine a people is assigned to this role. In fact, this people is going to hold that space. And it's very clear which authority he had got and what are the limits of the authority of this role. If I am assigned to this role, I can do whatever action I want or project if in my best judgment, I think they are aligned with the purpose. I transform myself into an entrepreneur on one role within a bigger organization, which is the company, right? I'm going to control the domains that belong to that role, and I'm going to put my awareness into all the accountabilities that are needed from that role. So in that space, and I have no time to go further on that, but it's a big piece of that. When you are looking at how to motivate people, you cannot motivate people. Forget about that. That doesn't work. You can make them fear. You can buy them. It doesn't work very long, but you cannot motivate people. So the question is how to bring an environment where people can motivate by themselves. And these building blocks of the organization by the roles with these 3 components allow that, because people here has no more bosses. They have a space, full authority in that space. They know exactly what are their authorities. They know exactly which are the limits of their authorities, which are the other domains controlled by the other roles. And of course, just to make be sure I'm clear in my presentation, of course, when I am within an organization, I fill several roles. In my organization, I fill about 25 or 30 roles. It may be a lot, but it's very common to see people having 6 or 10 roles within an organization. They are no more stick into one part of the hierarchy. And look at that one. For instance, let's take one of my partner, Margot. Margot is one of my partner within iGi partners, and she has got some roles. And look at these roles are spread out within the organizations, right? So can you get that? The kind of we are organizing the work, and having done that by this new mathematic of organizational design, we are able afterwards to assign people with taking into account their skills in different roles throughout the whole organization. In order to do that, we need a software, just a software for people to be able to look at that. So all that is completely transparent, web-based, so everybody can look at the governance, what we call the governance, this structure at every time, whenever they want, to know what are their authority, limit of authority, but also what can they expect from the other roles, so from other people within other roles. So that's the structure part. Let me now go with the fourth block, which is the chaos. 5 minutes, yeah, great. I don't need more. So the agility, you spoke about agility. How to make this agile? How can we have an organization that adapts as fast as change? So the key word within holacracy is tension. Let me define what is a tension within holacracy. And let's look at holacracy as a tension engine. So there is a structure, more structure around the work, and there is tension, dynamic steering, agility. So what is a tension? When I sense a gap in my roles between what is and what could be, this is called a tension. It could be frustration. There is a claim, a problem within a client. It could be an opportunity, a big business coming up. In both cases, we call that in holacracy tension. I don't mean tension as a negative way. Very often, tension is negative, is sensed as negative because we don't know human how to handle this tension. But now, when you know that, and when clients are adopting holacracy, after 2 months, tension is no more negative. So a tension is a potential. Think as a tension as energy. It's a free energy. A lot of free energy within the organization because humans are great sensors of tensions, right? So let's look at the way holacracy drives organization. It just takes the tension and processes the tension in order to move forward the organization. So the goal within holacracy is that anyone, any tension, anything, any tension sensed by anyone, anywhere in the company can get rapidly and reliably processed into meaningful change if to the extent it's relevant to the purpose. Wow. Wow. Anyone in a company that sense a tension can get this tension rapidly and reliably processed into a meaningful change without asking to any bosses, without having any consensus buying and so on. So the most of the processes, and there is 2 major processes within holacracy in order to do that, it just allows that. So there is first a governance process, which is just to give, it's 2 hours meeting every month or every 6 weeks. So you bring the tension, and with the tension are processed by a very special process. All the value is captured that will evolve the structure I presented you in order to adapt, in order to make the organization to adapt as fast as change, because change provokes tensions. Tension and change are the same thing, right? So this is the first process in order to evolve the structure, which allows the structure to become requisite. If some of you know the Elliot Jack's staff on structure. And of course, there is also a process within operations that takes process also tensions. And operation will take or lean on all the structure that have been defined. So let me close on this one and give you another look of maybe much more philosophical, but we are at the closing, so I took this sentence, maybe it takes a village to raise the children. It's an African proverb. I took this for organization, so it takes a village to raise an organization. And let me define the concept of organization used by holacracy. All the people, the employees, the shareholders, leaders, managers, whatever, are kind of stewarding the organization. Let's look at the organization like an own entity, the entity with some kind of identity, with some kind of purpose, which is not part. It doesn't belong to the human. It's another species. It's a kind of differentiation process between humans and organizations, and we are used to that. We human. In France, we have done that before, for instance, between men and women. which is not the case in every country. There is some country where women are still property, and you can have more than one as a property for men. So we know that process, which is a differentiation process between men and women. Same with parents. I've got 5 children. There is a process of differentiations. My children are not my property, but it still is in some countries like Bolivia, where one of my children is there. In some countries, children can be seen as property, extension of property, as a good investment. When they are 10, they can go on the mine, so they can bring back money. So we know this differentiation process. That's evolution. Now let us imagine that we are just at the beginning of another differentiation process, which is the differentiation process, sorry, between humans and organizations. That's what we call the organization. And just to finish on that one, so holacracy is just governance. Another way to define it, it's just governance of the organization through the people for the purpose. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Bernard. Are there any questions on? Did everybody understand the concept behind holacracy so far? So, actually, for me, well, we want to get already into the discussion first on the holacracy model. For me, when I read about it, it was always about an agile organization. And for me, this is really a good model, a good design model for organizations in a transformation phase, where they're changing something. So, because it's adapting to what would you say? How would you argue this is can also fit to a system which is static? So, for me, it's more we always have a organization with a system which is static, and then it's dynamic. We are changing it, and for the change process, this for me this model is quite interesting because it's adapting to the change. But how can we adjust this also for the static phase afterwards again?
Interesting. I love this question. So it allows me to put some more about the shift. Let's look at holacracy as change backed in. So there is no change phase and static phase. Change is backed in the process. There is no more restructuring. Restructuring happens every day by tension processing within governance. So there is no need for restructuring. In the common sense, we use that. It is no more static. It is no more transforming. It's always transforming, but slowly, step by step, at the pace, of tensions. So there is no mental thinking. Let's look at it's like the evolution of the tensions are the designer, the organizational designer. There is no more consultant or leader designing by mind the requisite structure. I've done that. It doesn't work. I think I was quite smart to do that. It doesn't work. And after restructuring, 12 or 18 months later, it doesn't more work very well. So let's look at it's an engine. It's change is baked in the process. So the question is, the answer is easy. There is no static and transformation phase. It's always changing at the pace of tensions.
Any comments? Any questions?
Thanks. Not sure how clear my question will be, or if this is going to sound very articulate. At the end, when you're talking about tension in the goal, I read the thing about the goal and I thought, I quite like that. That it's about people being able to respond quickly to say a customer need or a client need. But I got stuck right at the beginning. I'm really interested in engagement, people being engaged in the activities and their labor. And when you said, you sign over your power to a constitution, my heart sank. Because for me, something new is about having power, and I would really struggle to enlist myself in something where I thought it was giving my power away to another structure to which I had no input. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, speaking from a CEO perspective, right?
Speaking from a human perspective,
Human
for
perspective,
me,
yeah.
I think we're on a trajectory to being empowered human beings and interacting in mutual ways for each other's benefit in our world. I think we'll die otherwise. But for me to think about signing my power over to a constitution,
Yeah.
my stomach sort of cramped up.
Not all the humans, maybe I was not clear, not all the humans are signing their power to the constitution. The king at the top, the feudal lord, the CEO, I have been a CEO, is signing off his power to be his boss, to a constitution. Like in a town, you are free. You are free. You are free in a town. You can buy food. You can build up a restaurant. So you are free. At the same time, you obey to rules. You cannot steal. If I bought some food, you cannot steal my food. You will get into problem. So we are in that position. Did you get that? I didn't get your question, maybe.
I get that, and I would like to think that we're moving towards kind of communities where I didn't do things or withhold myself from doing things because somebody else tells me. That it's because you and I have agreed to be humans to each other, and you and I have agreed not to steal from each other, not because somebody is going to tell me. You see, that's the thing about the power thing. Power for me is really core to what we do in our work.
Got you.
If I don't feel empowered, how can I feel engaged?
Yeah, so the question of engagement, I got your thing, you are relating to engagement. I think we are already in that position, so it's not a question of organization. You didn't decide the rules you are obeying right now when you buy food in the city, right? So we are in the same position, and you can, that's life. I mean, empowerment for me stands within maybe some of you know the work of Daisy and Ryan. Isaac Gates speaks very often about that. So Daisy and Ryan say people can motivate. Bad news, you cannot motivate people. You cannot empower people. It doesn't work. But people can be empowered by themselves. They can find a way to motivate if there is three conditions. First is what he call intrinsic equality. When there is bosses, there is no intrinsic equality. So it's not possible. When you ask people to present themselves, yes, I am Bernard Marie, marketing accountable, responsible, and my responsible is. So it means that I'm not responsible. So it is not possible to empower people within a management hierarchy. That's for sure. So first, intrinsic equality. Second, you have to master. And I love what you said about the managers. I have been a manager, and I was in some uncomfort because I was growing as a manager, had some 5,000 people to manage in my company, and I was sensing that I was becoming less and less competent. I was doing stuff like running meetings. I was competent before that. I was a great consultant. And I forgot that being managers and having big salary and a big core. So the second key element is mastering something. Mastering an art, some expertise. The managers right now are not in that situation. They cannot be empowered. So they have to empower, they are not empowered. The third element, which is in my opinion the most important element, is you have to bring an environment to organization. If you want people to find their own motivation, you have to build an environment where people can use their best judgment, their free will. So they need a space. Remember the space. They need a space where they know they can take any decision. They have the authority to do that. And when you have the three elements, Daisy and Ryan says that they are the key factors for people to find their motivation. If they are willing to do so, if they are not willing, they will not. And holacracy answers at least for these three elements.
I had just a quick question. A couple of us were talking about on Twitter. You talk about a constitution, and we were asking each other, who writes the constitution?
Great question. Yeah. I need to give you just some very shortly the history, because the history of holacracy is very important. Three guys, it was in the States, three guys, they were not comfortable with the way we organize, right? And they decided to, they come from the agile software industry, and they decided to build a company called Ternary Software in order to find better ways to do that. So they were very curious. They took, of course, a lot of from agile stuff. They took sociocracy, bits of sociocracy, So they took a lot of things. When it works, they keep it. When it doesn't work, they just throw it away. And 7 years after they are doing that process, which is very agile process, they have received a lot of recognition signs, like award. We are in the States, so you know you have the award of the best growing company in the 5 miles around the town. You know, so they have got a lot of awards, and they say, do we have done something? And at that time they call that holacracy. And the first decision they took, which was great in my opinion as a differentiation, it is a great element, was to say we don't want holacracy to depend on us. So they decided to write a constitution or the rules so that they will not depend on Brian or Tom or whatever people at that time was. So they put down the first version of the constitution. Now this constitution is evolving, as with the same process, is evolving. So for instance, when I found limits, when I deploy holacracy with a big company like Kingfisher or Danone or small company, when I found limits within holacracy, it's called tension. And this tension I bring back to a process within holacracy 1, and we process this tension into evolution of the holacracy constitution. And now we are at version 4.0, and we have already 2 pages of new features for the next version. And the process just afterwards is very precise. We don't want any mind within the constitution. So we have a process where we check that all the limits we find are it's a pattern we can find in other clients. It's repeating again and again. So it's a thing, it's very grounded. We will not want to take any evolution of the constitution that is not grounded into reality. That's the way it's done right now. And it will evolve, I think, later.
Christian Renard, Paris. How do you instill that in an organization? Is it from central or local?
It could be both. I mean, we have small clients, 30 people, 50 people. So the CEO is, we do what we call an executive taster day with the executive team. And so he can sense, because it's very difficult to only explain. So they practice, and we take their real tension, so they can measure the efficiency. And the CEO is willing to adapt. So he signs the constitution, and we run it by doing the process. And there is other cases with bigger organizations like Castorama or Kingfisher or Danone. They are interesting because they are dying with the restructuring process. As you know, it's costly, And so they are looking at that. They want to make a pilot. So we will take one direction or one division. For Safran, for instance, which is a group, we take only one subsidiary of Safran. They do that as a pilot. So it's possible.
Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Bernard.